It'll probably get in. Okay, good evening, everyone. Kalamazoo community, Battle Creek community. Hopefully, everybody is tuning in. We are here to basically just have a conversation. We want to give the floor to some members of the community to speak about an incident that has happened and also some support that they are looking for. And so we know that we haven't been live in a very long time, and we know there's a lot that's happening out there in this world, but we want to come out and just show our support for this family and also to ask for the community support for a hearing that they will be bringing before the Citizens Review Board next week. So we want to give them time to tell their story, and so that we can hear from them and then also show up to support. So we have with us today, we have Ronald and we have Ronald's daughter, Rondisha, and they're going to tell us about something that happened not too long ago and give us some updates along the way and tell us what they would like for us to do to support them as they come to bring this before the Citizens Review Board next week. So we're going to welcome Ronald and Rondisha. And first of all, we just want to say thank you so much for coming here today, giving us your time. And we know that our chapter is very small, but we hope to move in ways that are very powerful for our community. So we just want to start by saying, you know, we had seen this video that was shared online and not realizing this took place a little while ago. You know, many people started sharing it again. I remember sharing it and I was just like, what is going on here? So in this video, we see a white woman who is making a police call. She is using the N-word slur a lot and making a call about a toy gun or a water gun of some sort and saying that her child was hit with it. And she was making a lot of, threats about what she was going to do, and that she, had personally mentioned she had a firearm, a 9mm. We got that straight, and that she was, basically saying that she was willing to use that. And then later in the video, we see that she is confronting you, Rondisha, at what appears to be your home. There are children there as well. And somehow the police come on the scene and end up arresting you as you are responding to her and responding to the things that she's saying. So tell us a little bit, like, what happened?
I just heard a lot of banging on the door, like it was shaking. I heard it shaking the door. It sounded like somebody was trying to come in and invade my home. So I looked out the window and I saw her, and I saw another lady, and she was screaming, "I'm gonna kill you and your kids. You shot my son with an Orby gun." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So I called my grandma, and I'm like, "Grandma, is something going on outside? I don't know. It just sounded like somebody's trying to come in my home." And when I looked outside again, I saw the police pull up. So I'm like, okay, the police is here, so I felt safe enough to go outside then. When I went outside, I came outside and I was telling them to get her off my property, asking them to get her off my property. He proceeded to tell me to calm down and to relax and to basically make it seem like I was in the wrong when I was already at home. All I did was want him to get her off my property so we could get a clear understanding of what they were actually there for. I still never knew until I saw the video what really happened because I ended up going to jail.
He went to jail that day. What day was this? Do you remember the date, the day, any of that?
No, I do not. I just
know
know
it was in the month of June.
It was June in the summertime.
This was last year?
That was last June.
24.
Bless you. Yep, it was last. It was last June. I just remember that I was home and I was asleep. I was resting, and I got a call, but I thought it was my son telling me his mom was in the back of the police car. And his mom lives in Texas, so I'm like, "What is she in the back of the police car?" But then I caught the voice. It was my grandson. And then I just heard a bunch of commotion in the back. So I started going over there. But by the time I got to Little Caesars, all I see is a bunch of Caucasians, to be honest. And so I'm trying to get there as fast as I can because I see my mom outside. She's 70-some years old. So when I get there, I know my mom had told me that some lady was talking about shooting people. So when I get there, you know, I'm trying to figure out, well, who is the lady talking about shooting somebody? Now at this time, I don't have a 911 call, so I don't have anything to, but I believe what my mom is saying, but I was like, in front of the police? She was like, yes, I'm telling you, Junior, she was talking about shooting us in front of the police. Now, obviously, when I get the video, I see that. So I proceed to try to figure out what's going on. At the time, I forgot my daughter's even in the back of the police car. Because at this time, I'm really mad because my mom told me they slammed her on top of her head and all this kind of stuff, and they was treating her like she was a guy. You know, they must have thought she was a guy.
So they're using force.
Oh, they definitely used a lot of force. It was 2 of them. They totally ignored the people who was banging on the door, you know, because he even told her that he believed her. You know, walking up to the door where they shot him with a gun. Oh, I believe you, I believe you. And so, you know, his demeanor was just so calm to, once I got the you know, the 911 call and the audio and the body cameras, things of that nature, it made it a lot clearer as to what her demeanor was. You know, because the neighbor said he thought somebody was kicking in her door because he heard it next door, so he hadn't stepped outside. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, the dispatch told the officer, caller says she has a 9mm and she's going to kill who's ever doing this. So this is what is relayed to him from dispatch. But he doesn't, when he pulls up, hey, calm down, you know, hey, you're going to go to jail, this type of stuff. But then when I see my daughter come out, you know, which I, in all honesty, in my heart, believe he thought was a guy, because even when I went and spoke with Assistant Chief Green about the situation, I said, yeah, I don't talk to you about the situation that man happened over there on Vine Street. Oh yeah, with your son? I said, that's not my son, that's my daughter. I said, man, she weighs less than 120 pounds. You guys are tossing around like she's some kid, you know, like she's some young guy, you know. And so, but my only thing with the police department is that he you know, at the end of the day, they told me that these officers acted professionally, they did nothing wrong, there was no excessive force. And the officer blatantly lied. He said my daughter hit him.
We heard that in the video.
Yeah.
He said, because you said, they said you're under arrest. You said, for what?
Yeah, I was turning
And
around
that's what I
saying,
said.
For what? And then that's when he got more aggressive and then got to trying to make it seem like I was trying to resist, but I was just real confused as to why he was taking me to jail and I'm at home trying to protect my home.
When I heard that on the video and he said you're under arrest, I said, for what? At the same time, you said, for what? Because I said, see, okay, I'm not missing something. I said, I'm confused. How do we go to arrest from, you was just standing there 1 second ago to assess the situation, and now why are you detaining her? So, and then he said, because you hit me. And I was like, are we watching the same video?
Right.
So, okay, first I have a couple questions. I just want to back up real quick. So do you know the names of the officers that were handling you?
One is Harris.
Harris.
I've been unable to ascertain the other video. I put in the request. They played this game of acting like it wasn't clear enough, and it was clear. You know, like I want the second officer who was involved in the arrest of my daughter who had physical contact with her. They, you know, somehow ended it and told me I had to file it all over again. So they take 7 to 8 months. So I've been unable to get that video yet, which I'm still angry with the public defender's office, because if you're defending somebody, why we can't get the video from y'all as well? You know, but they talking about they in some type of agreement, you know, with the state, and I'm like, yeah, y'all in cahoots with them as far as I'm concerned, because the case is about us, about her. Any cases about the defendant, they should be entitled to it from the defense lawyer. Why do we have to go pay for it?
So KDPS told you that they were evading giving you this video because they have an agreement with the state to do what?
Oh no, I'm talking.
No, they can't get it from.
We can't get it from the
Public
public
defender.
defender, so we have to wait the time frame that they got. And their time frame is 24 to 28 weeks.
So it sounds like public defenders have access to this video.
Yeah, they had it.
KDPS
Were they
has
represent
video.
at any
Yes.
point, because you were arrested
Yes.
and you were assessed charges?
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay, what do you mind sharing what your charges were?
Assault and battery of police officer.
felony.
felony.
That's a felony, yep. And so you went through the public defenders to get
Yeah.
legal support, okay? And what I'm confused about is if they were representing you, why this was not shown to you during
Well,
your,
We saw it, but
Oh,
we
okay.
wanted it. But when
Okay.
let's be clear
Okay.
about it. When we saw it, they sabotaged the video where you
Yeah,
couldn't
it
hear
wasn't-
nothing.
Couldn't hear nothing.
there
So,
was no audio?
There was no audio. He tried to put. Listen, this guy here, he's a true clown down at the public defender's office. You know.
Who are we talking
I
about?
can't remember his name, but we didn't had a couple run-ins. You know, because I had, like I told him, I was upset from the beginning. Once the video, which first I listened to my mom. I believed my mom. So make no mistake, I didn't really need the video, but I need the video for the purpose of proving to them this is what happened. But I just never understood how we got to court and nobody looked at the video from the police. We just, you know, and I kept saying, hey man, you know, he kept saying, well, we adjourned, they didn't have the video, you know, they ain't got the video, we ain't got the video yet.
One of the police went on vacation.
Then the police went, a bunch of garbage. So she has to keep missing work. You know, now I'm driving. So I'm putting off getting on the road, you know, but one time I had to leave, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I couldn't go, you know, but it got dismissed. Well, I was fighting hard.
The case got dismissed.
Yeah, I was fighting hard.
Okay,
You
so-
know, you got the video.
So you had this
You know.
one, was it one charge?
Yep.
The assault and battery of the police. And who is that supposed to be against?
I believe
Was
that's
it the
Harris.
Harris?
I believe it's
Harris.
Harris.
Okay, and who was the other officer that was using force with you?
That's why I ain't
That's
got
what
his
they
name.
can't
We don't
get.
know.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't got
okay.
his name.
So okay.
Because there's so many police reports, it's hard to figure out.
Remember when they took the kids for the juvenile thing? He was one of the officers that took them.
Yeah, they've been doing a
He
bunch.
was right there.
See, they don't like me,
Not a video,
but they know all three of my kids.
Okay.
You know, they know all of them, but they know the three biologists that carry the Gillum name. Now they know them when they hear the name Gillum. So
Okay.
they mess with them. They do all kind. Even my grandsons, you know, we're at the Radisson and they just act like we're not standing there and handcuff my grandson and take him to the police station for us to come down there just to get him. You know.
So they're targeting your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are
targeting my
definitely
family.
approaching with bias.
Right.
You
And
know.
so, okay, what's interesting to me is that it sounds like you weren't given access to even the police reports because they're supposed to be filling out these reports, you know, when they come into contact with us, especially if there's arrest. And you should, you know, your defender should have been able to give you, you know, copies of that, or you could FOIA that
I'm
too. Because that officer should be in those
Police
reports
report.
saying that he detained you.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where my confusion is why is this not giving you this access to information about this event involving you that you have the right to have access to? That's where my confusion is coming in. I want to go back to the story of we know the name of
Can I
this.
ask a quick
Go ahead, go ahead.
question? So you said that they dismissed the case. Did they give a reason? Did somebody not show up? Did they just dismiss it?
They basically, my lawyer was stating that it was no clear evidence. It was bright as day that I didn't put my hands on him. But they still persisted on, like, they wanted to make it seem like I still was in the wrong, even after my lawyer said that.
Okay.
And the judge who was hearing your case, do you remember who that was?
Daniel, what's his name?
He was, but I gave him credit. He was interested in seeing the video because
He
once
was.
we saw the video, the lawyer immediately went in there and asked for a dismissal, but the prosecutor, no. So he told the judge, he was like, well, I'm pretty sure when you see the video, we won't be back. You
And
know, and
which
then she went to
video was
court and
this?
she ain't been back.
Was this the body cam footage or the video that was
No, this-
posted?
That's just their body cam. But like I said, when we were privileged to it, we didn't have any audio
Right.
to hear all
So
this.
you hear all
You
the
know.
riffraff
She
that she
made
was
while the
actually
police was there.
saying.
She made 4 threats on the porch. 4 threats pertaining to that 9mm.
And that was the other thing that stood out to me. I want to go back in the story because I want to make sure we get everything lined up good. So we have the name for this person, right? And this
Yes.
person's name is Ashley.
Yes.
Ashley. So what did The thing
How did
around
they
this
treat her?
Orby gun, okay, what's the deal with that? Why was there, you know?
We still never got to the bottom of if her son was even hit with the gun or not.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
We
once
still
once,
don't know.
once they took her to jail,
That was
the
out the door.
It
investigation,
became
as far as
about
I
that.
was
It
concerned,
came
the
about me.
investigation was over.
Mm.
Get off the property. Well, we're done. We're not talking about
They
an Orby
want to
gun.
pull the
I mean,
kids to
she's
the
in
side.
jail.
Right, right,
Talk
right.
to the
know,
kids
like,
by
right.
themselves
We're
and
not-
all
I
that.
wasn't going for any
My
of that.
dad wouldn't let it happen because at that point, y'all never even
We're not going to
investigated.
help you investigators.
Right.
Whatever happened
Right.
is past that now. This woman that beat the door, she just
Right,
shook
right,
it
right.
off the foundation,
Right.
made threats. We're
Right.
not helping you guys.
It sounded like the way she framed it, right? Because she's saying, "Oh, these kids are shooting my child with a BB gun," so it's sounding like her child's being victimized
Right.
by this. And then I heard on the video later on when she had shown up on the property, someone was just like, "It's not a BB gun."
Right.
So that was a big thing that stood out to me too, because I'm like, why are you saying that if
Right.
that's not what it is,
Because a
making
BB
it
gun
sound
and an
more.
Orby gun are two different things.
Yeah,
Okay.
an Orby
And-
gun is considered
With water
is
pellets.
considered a toy.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
It
I'm
costs-
like,
that's a $50-$60 toy.
hey.
Yeah.
So,
But they are
so there, it
considered a
sounded like
toy.
there was just the kids were playing,
Yeah.
you
The
know.
whole north side, the whole Kalamazoo. Actually, guys had put down guns, real guns.
Hmm.
And they was having water gun fights and Orby fights. You
Okay.
see people on their live pulling up on blocks
The
at
police got
7 in
mad
the
about
morning,
that.
With
and
a,
stopped
with a,
that.
really?
hanging out with water guns.
Okay.
I was thrilled about
Hey.
it because real guns was down.
And so she was upset because she said her son got hit with one of these, you know, pellets or whatever it
Yes.
is. And so she was saying she was going to therefore use a real lethal
Gun.
fire and use lethal force.
Absolutely.
And she was saying this, and it was unclear, like she was saying that she was going to use this on children.
Yes.
Yeah, she said,
On my
no,
son.
when she came off the porch, she said, when the police got there, when she saw him, she amped it up. And you could hear it because she turned around. And
Especially
she looked
after
down,
him
she said,
saying he
oh,
believed
you
her."
want to play with a play gun? I got a real 9mm bitch and you can get it. And then she looked at the shit, and you're going to get it, and you're going to get it.
She even threatened my grandma.
All this is on video,
Yeah.
on
Okay.
the body cam. So I didn't understand how
What a disproportionate response.
how do you go to grabbing my daughter because she came, like I said, he thought she was a guy. Because
Okay.
she came out the porch, you know, bitch, you better watch your motherfucking mouth, you know, and doing her thing on the cursing and, you know, standing on the ground, you know. But as soon as she moved forward, he took her straight to the ground.
And I saw that. And
You
so, what I was also realizing is, I believe in talking to you after the incident when we had connected, you said she had made 4 distinct threats to use lethal force
Yes.
against the children / your family
Yes.
because of this Orby gun.
Right.
Like the main thing that just came to my mind was just how this didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
But also how emboldened white women can be to get on the phone and call police and you know, calling Black community members out of their name.
Yeah.
And
While
then
making
and
threats.
threatening, giving actual threats that, you know, they're going to use this firearm,
And feeling more
then showing
comfortable.
up to
Right.
your residence.
in
After you've
front of the
been told
police.
to go to Little Caesars, you had instructions to
Your
go to Little
dispatch told her to
Caesars.
go to Little
And then
Caesars.
showing up at your house, which most of us know when somebody comes to your house, it's like, okay, we have a problem.
Yes.
And then continuing the threats, right? So now this is probably also upsetting the children that
Yeah,
are there. Obviously,
absolutely.
you mentioned your mother is aware of the
Yeah.
situation. So this is probably feeling not just hostile. It's probably feeling like, you know, what are you guys feeling?
Right.
What are
Ray
you
told me
feeling?
to go home.
I feel like
I said, I'm at my mama's house. You go home. She said, "You going to mama's house?" I said, yeah, I definitely am at my mama's house. I said, but you'll be gone before I do.
I feel like they kind of. I didn't feel safe at all.
Right.
I feel
Yeah.
like they didn't protect me or my children.
Mm.
And we were at home. We didn't do nothing wrong.
Mhm,
You never
mhm.
came to investigate. Is what I feel like. I feel like you came decided already on what you came to do. Because at the point of you telling her to go somewhere, if you told me to go to Little Caesars and I had not, and I went to these people's house, I would have been in jail quick.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all didn't do that. Y'all allowed her to be on my porch. Y'all watched her bang on my door, shake my door down, threaten me, my kids, my grandma, and still no point until I tried to get forceful with the woman and remove her off my own property. That's then you stepped in to
Which is interesting because we've got this stand your ground law, which allows you to defend yourself
Absolutely.
without the duty to retreat. As long as you're not engaged in legal activity, blah, 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 blah. If
Right,
somebody is
absolutely.
On your own
threatening
property.
you,
Right.
which them threatening you is considered menacing, and they could face criminal charges.
right.
See, Kalamazoo, but unfortunately, the Kalamazoo Police Department thinks otherwise. You know, because I had that conversation with them as well. You know, they're not too, you know, like, I'm not sure who they're listening to, what lawyer or whoever, the city lawyers that they're listening to, but he's grossly misleading the department, you know, on the legality of certain things.
I
you know.
believe, just like a lot of police officers and corporations have always done, they've made their own rules, and they know that we often
Sometimes
don't always
powerless.
have the support
Yeah.
and the knowledge of how to push back on those. And so when they find people that are educated, you know, they start targeting those individuals, you know, and their families and their work. And so I think it's very important for us as those taxpayers that are also, you know, helping to, you know, put that money in their pocket,
Right.
that we say, you know, you cannot be in the community where you have established yourself to serve and protect or whatever other things they do to seem ambivalent and safe, and then turn around and terrorize the black citizens or other people of color in this community, and then we're paying you to do this. That doesn't
Right.
make any sense to me.
Right.
And it doesn't make any sense that, well, it does make sense given the political climate that we're in. But, you know, Kalamazoo voted yes on, I believe it was Proposal 2, back when that was up, to increase the budget of the police department over 7 years by, I believe it was about $13 million.
Yeah, it was.
A lot
It
of
was
money. And so what are those dollars going to be used to do that is going to further impact our well-being as Black people in this community, you know? And I think one reason I think it's important to speak on what is going on and to be unapologetic about it is to serve as that resistance and say, you might have, you know, all of the weaponry, you might have, you know, all of the legal coverage, you might have police immunity, but in no way, shape, or form does this give you the right to treat us as less than human beings, or to target us, or to harm us, or to allow white people to harm us and to threaten and intimidate and harass us. And so that's something that has definitely been noticed, you know, is happening in our community. And I want to say another thing, because I know you guys are going to go before the Citizens Review Board pretty soon, because I'm assuming you have filed complaints against these officers in order to get to that point. You know, their track record for the Citizens Review Board on legitimizing the complaints of our residents, it doesn't have a high track record.
Oh, yeah, I'm aware of
And
that,
so
absolutely.
I think it's very interesting if you go and pull up the Citizens Review Board and what the complaints are and how many of those have been sustained. There's not very many that have been sustained, but there's quite a few complaints.
Right.
And we know from the OIR report that was done in the years past that it's been well established there's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, the Kalamazoo Police Force. And for those of us that have experienced that police violence and have experienced those trumped up charges and have experienced the prosecutor following us around online or into spaces where we're having our own conversation and finding things to use against us, you know, that is, you know, living in that surveillance type of environment doesn't feel safe. It's not safe.
Right.
It's not safe. And so what do? We tell the story anyway, and we refuse to be intimidated, and we refuse to allow the police state here to make us feel any less than. And we push back by educating ourselves and one another about our rights and what do we want to do about it. So I know that you guys have a hearing with the Citizens Review Board next week. Tell us about that and what you want.
Well, I
What do you
wanna
need?
Say something real quick. Just, I want to
Go ahead,
make
go ahead.
a comparison, and we'll see if this
Go
is
ahead.
even important. But one of the things that you said was, when you got to the house, like you heard what your mom said. And yes, you were trying to get the videos and everything afterward, but it wasn't to prove what your mom had said because you believed her,
Mhm.
Right.
right? Because one, that's your mama,
Right.
right? But also, why would this be something, right, that she would lie about?
Right.
But you have years of history with this person. And the comparison that I'm making is with the officers who arrived on the scene and immediately
Yes. Mm-hmm.
trusted this woman. Is that woman his mother or somebody who he has had a relationship with? What is that? Who is this person? Because if you have an individual that is at someone else's home, antagonizing, harassing, threatening, right? They're actually engaged in illegal activity. Why would you, as a police officer, arrive and say, I believe you,
Yeah.
And give them space to continue that.
and not only give them space to continue that, she felt empowered and emboldened
Right. To keep
Absolutely.
continue on and go
to go
harder.
further
Right.
because she knew she was protected.
Right.
Right now that the police are here, who called the police? I'm really curious about
That's a good
that.
question
She
too. You
did.
said
So
they were
she
there.
called the
She
police.
was on the phone with him.
So
On the
she
911
called the
call.
police.
That was her protection,
Yeah.
so that she could continue to harass you.
Hmm. So she called them to let them know she was pulling up to your house.
Yeah.
And
had
she was
already said
upset.
that. She
and-
said she was gonna be running red lights.
And so she just wanted them
and they was
to.
like, "Oh, don't do that, ma'am. You're gonna." She was like,
That
"I
is-
don't give
yeah,
a
it
damn."
just was- It just was
I'm
all
going
a
over
hate
there and I'm
crime
finna
to
kill
me.
That's it. That was what I felt like watching it when I was watching what was happening and when I
felt
had
like that
heard.
from the police too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
y'all did nothing to diffuse it, and then y'all came at me. You misjudged me, and it meant
Mm-hmm.
nothing. Like,
But I
I'm
will
tired
say
of that
this
too.
to
Mm-hmm.
when the lieutenant showed up on the scene to give you some clarification to the it's crazy, but this is what he said. I said, yeah, man, but y'all we out there still. I said, you take a like y'all just gotta. Well, we have to figure out who lives there first. We weren't for sure if they were roommates. So this is what the lieutenant is justifying as to why they're allowed this. Like this woman doesn't live here. You guys know this.
And it sounds
You
like
know?
she explained that she didn't live there
She
because
made
she
it
was
very
driving to the
Kill
other
somebody.
person's home.
She
Yeah.
didn't even exactly. I don't even know how she wound up there. I really don't.
Then
Because
all her
everybody was
family
in the
was
house.
out there, and it was just me, my grandma, and my kids at one point in time. And then when I got put in the car, it was just my grandma and my kids, and
Now, the
all the
officers, they took her
officers-
down,
and all the.
and they were still over there harassing my grandson and my mama. While two police had my daughter bent up like a folding chair, like she was a guy.
That was a really good point. I'm glad you brought that
Yeah,
up.
it was. She got real comfortable.
And I think and when you were bringing up the fact that the issue of trust, right? Who trusts who and why, and why we tend to have trust with what our community is going through is because either we have or we know somebody that went through that, and so we know this is happening. We know this happens. It's an ongoing pattern in reality, for our people, and so it's not hard to believe. It's not hard to believe at all. When we saw the video of, and I'm bringing this up because it's happening at the same time. I don't know the verdict of the case today with Christopher Shore, who took the life of Patrick Lyoya.
Grand Rapids.
Yeah, but when we saw that video of how he just he just took that man's life, just like that after
Yeah.
that traffic stop because he couldn't subdue him.
That's how I felt this last time. I was so scared to get out of that car.
And that's important to note.
I was so scared.
It's important to note that your fear is valid.
He was
And
so
self-
aggressive. Like, I just didn't understand it. Like, why you so aggressive with me? I'm a whole woman. I'm not even, giving you a reason to be so aggressive. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't
it's
get it.
just sad of the force that they use. Cause even shooting the guy in the head, that just was, you know, overkill. You
They
know
use
what I
this
mean?
phrase non-compliant, and so you'll see that a lot in the articles. This
Yeah.
person was non-compliant. This person did not comply with
What the officer
with the
wanted them to
officer,
do.
right? But what we also see in those situations is that what the officer is asking the person to do, that person is not required to do.
Exactly.
Right.
And-
Back up, stop filming, right? And then they say, nope, this person was not compliant, so we took them down.
Right.
And we have the right. They make us feel like we don't, but we do have the right to resist an illegal arrest.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now,
so
you might not
I
survive
didn't know
that
that.
resist,
That's
which is
but-
why we often try
Don't.
not to. But
know that.
we do have the right to
Yeah.
resist an illegal
Yeah.
arrest,
Yeah.
which is what I feel like we were watching in
Right.
your video.
Right.
We may have that right, but we do not get to exercise that right
No.
because
That's
the cost of exercising that right.
That's what was
Is
brought
what
up
I-
will
to
be
the
your
question
life.
on Friday.
It's brutal.
I asked a question
Yeah.
and he didn't like me asking him why he wanted me to get out the car.
But that's the thing.
You hadn't asked me for my ID or anything. I had my wallet out for you to take my identification and run my
That was
license.
wild.
You did none of that. You said, get out of the car, and you started to yank me. I'm like, why you want me to get out of the car?
And you know what?
Let's make sure we also tell that story as well. But I know you were trying to.
No, I was yeah, that needs to come as a follow up to what interactions you have had after this initial interaction. What's coming up for me too is I remember when I was going through trial after I was advocating for that you brought up the non-compliance, and immediately brought me to the fact that one of our comrades, we were at a protest together, and this comrade ended up getting injured during his arrest. And he became very just not responsive. And so the officers were escalating, trying to force him to get up and walk and move and things like this. Mind you, he had a disability, and he was not as responsive because he had not been able to breathe during his takedown, the takedown arrest. And so he wasn't with it. And so I said, something is wrong. So I was advocating for medical help. I said, something's wrong and you need to help him, because we all just watched what happened to George Floyd in 2020
Right.
and people didn't feel safe to do anything. And that impacted me a lot because it is not safe. But, so I got arrested because I didn't stand down from that. And I wasn't going to stand down until he got the attention he needed to make sure, we just want to make sure he was okay. And so they weaponize these instances of we're trying to make sure we're safe or someone next to us is safe. And part of our rights is that if we feel in threat of danger, or if we feel like, our lives are being threatened, we have the right to protect ourselves and our people.
Right.
If that's the person next to us or whatever's happening. This is a natural human response to threat.
Right.
And so what the police have normalized doing is taking our natural responses to feeling threatened and unsafe. They've hoarded the right for them to use lethal force when they feel that way, allegedly. But when we feel that way, we are charged and criminalized. And why would you do this and why would you do that? It's not rocket science. It's what any human being does
Exactly.
when they feel a fear of what is going to happen next. And we have a lot of evidence as to why we would feel this fear. Centuries of evidence, but even just within the past 50, 60 years,
Right.
we understand that police do weaponize their power. They do take our lives and injure us. And they maintain this energy and environment of fear around us, with being as armed as they are, as heavily armed as they are, with the ways that they interrogate us at stops, with the ways they're hostile. You mentioned being aggressive, and then they project that, no, we're actually the ones that are doing those things. So there's a lot of kind of psychological warfare going on there, mental gymnastics going on there to kind of discombobulate you.
Psychology.
Exactly. And so one thing that, you know, I try to affirm for people that have had these incidences, you know, they were very real. And I know for me, I dealt with PTSD from this situation, especially because it ended up in like a 2-year-long court case, where I felt like, you know, they were just coming for me. You know, they were trying to make sure that I never felt empowered to say, hey, you should stop, or you should make sure they're okay, that I never would do it again. That's what it felt like. It felt like, we're going to drag you through this until you learn that you don't get to do that.
Right. You gotta
And
do
so,
what we say.
and I said, the more that we continue to see police-involved killings and violence against our community, the more I say, you know, I made the right choice. I did what I felt like I needed to do in that moment to ensure that something happened, to make sure that we were like, hey, something's not going right here. You need to pay attention to this. So I just want to validate, when you say you felt unsafe, you likely were not safe. And so that's why you wasn't about to hop out the car because somebody told you to get out the car. But going back, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Well, I wanna make sure that we still, because there's more still yet to this story, this part of this story, and that is, you know, the kind of how that particular incident ended, right? They were aggressive towards you,
Yes.
and then can you tell us what happened after that?
The first talking about with the
Yeah, so when
Honestly.
when she had come to the house, the police had come, and then you wound up having that interaction with 2 officers.
yeah, they basically just took me down and folded me up, and like I was just trying to turn around and ask them like, what was going on? Why was I being handcuffed?
I saw that in the video.
I didn't do nothing wrong. I was at home.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was doing the right thing by asking you to get off my property, and then when you proceeded not to, I just felt like I was doing the right thing by getting them off my property like I was supposed to.
And you do have the right. You do have
Right.
that right.
Yeah, but by taking me to jail, it just made me feel like I didn't have that right. Because, like, what did I go to jail for? I protected my family. I was at home. You still never figured out if my kids shot the boy with the pellet gun or anything.
Yeah.
The whole thing just turned around on me.
People have been shot in their homes, just existing, just living. And so, you know, again, these are very valid reasons to have fear.
Right.
And so I know that there were 2 officers, and I don't know if you wanted to share the names of, at least the name that we have.
Harris.
The Harris.
Officer Harris.
All right, we're waiting on the other
He
one.
was the most aggressive one for me. He was real determined. That was the first one who grabbed me up and was determined to take me down. That's the one that said I punched him.
Now,
which
what
I don't remember
was
I did.
was that the white officer that was the one that was closest to you that grabbed you in the video?
Yes.
Okay, because I haven't met him yet. But what I think is important, because I have struggled to find. I think some cities have this where they'll have a list of the officers that are working for the department, but I had a hard time finding that for Kalamazoo. So that knowing who works for the department, I have had a hard time finding that. Now, I don't know if they're doing that for their safety, but I think it's important that we know who is working in this force.
Right.
That we can see a face and a name so that we know who is who, and
Exactly.
not just when we meet them in person at a stop or something. So this is why it's important for us, if all we have is share the name, so the next time somebody comes into contact and you come in contact with, you know, that officer, you know this is the experience people have had with them.
Yeah, and sometimes we have to keep our own record of that.
That's why my dad make sure he gets badge numbers and names. no matter
That's
what.
right. And something else that was coming up for me too. So you said, you know, you came out to ask this person to get off your property or to remove them if needed, which you have the right to do. You were taken down by these 2 officers, and then they made a claim that you hit them,
Yes.
and then charged you for that. Took you to jail. You stayed overnight, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember by chance the bond that was set, the bond amount?
I had a PR bond. They let me
Okay.
out the next day on a PR bond.
Okay. And then, because one thing I think is also happening is I think that sometimes they're giving these trumped up charges that come with these high bonds, so people struggle to afford being able to get out if they get put in. So I think that that is something that we need to keep an eye on that's happening.
Yeah.
In
They
addition,
do that a lot
Oh, yeah.
and or grabbing you on a Friday so you stay through the
through
weekend.
the weekend.
Yeah.
One thing that I had asked for a little support is to look up KDPS's policy on body cameras to see if it says anything about what their policy says about using the audio. What I'm seeing is that, let me see, I was going through this. It says that prior to going into service, each uniform member has to be responsible for making sure they are equipped with a portable recorder and the recorder is in good working order. They're supposed to report if that is not the case. It says that they have to wear, the body cameras. It says that they need to wear in a conspicuous manner unless they are doing something for undercover capacity. It says that the recorder should be activated in any of the following situations: all enforcement and investigative contacts, including stops and field interview situations, traffic stops, including traffic violations, stranded motorist assistance, and all crime interdiction stops, self-initiated activity, any other contact that becomes adversarial after the initial contact, all emergency responses, vehicle pursuits, all other duty-related official contact with the public. It says that once activated, it should not be deactivated until the operator has disengaged contact with the witness, complainant, victim, or suspect, unless, and then it talks about a few exceptions, which none of those would apply to your situation. It says, let's see. I'm trying to see what it says about audio. It says anything
So while
about
while
that.
you look that up,
mhm.
so I wanna talk a little bit about what's happened since then with you trying to get this information. So yes, there was a video that was posted online, but what about the body cam footage, right? So we talked a little bit about that earlier before the stream, so I want to give y'all an opportunity to share that, what your experience has been trying to access that.
Well, the one that's on there is the one officer's body cam, his entire thing. But I just been having an issue getting the other ones because the other one, to me, when I was requesting even from a lawyer, because it's two officers.
Mm-hmm.
This officer is claiming she hit him. The other officer's body cam will be able to catch all the action, because you don't see him do nothing but reach and grab us. But the other officer his whole body cam should be facing the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's been almost a year trying to ascertain that part. But it's not surprising to me because they make a bunch of excuses of saying they don't have, enough staff, but when you go down there, you just see people sitting around, So I just feel like they could be doing it. You're just sitting there closing the window every 5 minutes because you don't look at nobody, so yeah, there's a mess down there.
At some point, you did get to see. So earlier on, you got to see the video. You didn't get to actually get it, but there was also an issue there.
Yeah, it wasn't no audio, so we had no clue. I didn't have a clue as what was being said. My daughter, she probably could remember some of the things, but I couldn't put nothing into context because I didn't know, I wasn't finna sit there and try to lip read, and plus they was far away, he was walking up. But once I got the actual video in my hands myself, and I went and paid for it, and I actually saw how nonchalant and how calm this guy was after the 911 dispatch told him, his dispatch told him that the caller was threatening to kill somebody with a 9mm who had done this to a child. And he just, I watch it every morning though.
Didn't
so,
take it seriously.
When I first heard it, it just broke my heart. Just knowing somebody was coming to kill me and the police not
We're talking about the play gun.
really
now.
doing nothing.
And I was just really upset, like I really had it out for the guys that were there, these women's guys. Like, dude, you really got your woman, you around here with your woman because your son you should have went and got him a bigger gun then. Like, that's what the kids are doing. I don't know if my grandsons them shot him or not, but had it been mine, well, like, what they had, a little bitty one? Come on, we going to the store. I'm gonna get you a big one. When you catch him, you shoot him back.
And
know?
that's another thing, the disproportionate criminalization of black children at play, because that's the theme for me here too.
Yeah.
Such as when the officer that took the life of Tamir Rice when he was only 11 years old,
Yeah.
because he was playing with a toy
Yep. At the
a
playground,
toy gun at the playground, yes. And he claimed he couldn't tell the difference. So criminalizing black children at play, is to me a factor here as well. And escalating it to actually threatening lethal violence, it's like, okay.
And that is acceptable. That's one of the things that I think should scare every single person of color in this community, is that you can be sitting in your living room watching whatever. You could be watching Power, you could be watching Attack on Titan. They don't matter what you into. You can be sitting at your home and suddenly this explosion happens,
They
right?
can just come up at your house, bring the cops with them,
Yeah.
and then they take you down. Like, what? So that's the other
Wow.
thing. So when,
I was all I kept saying, how did I go to jail?
okay. So, how were you treated in jail? I'm just curious.
I wasn't treated well. I told them that I felt like I was having to have a seizure because I have seizures.
You have seizures? Okay.
And I was a little overwhelmed. And
Right.
my anxiety was through the roof, and I was really thinking about my kids on how they felt.
Yeah.
Having to watch that.
Yeah.
And then knowing that their mom didn't do anything wrong. I was just trying to protect them. We just don't want them to feel that they don't have to protect their kids. You can't protect your kids. You can. I didn't do nothing wrong. Don't ever feel like you can't protect your family. 'Cause
That's right.
what you're supposed to do.
That's right.
But they didn't treat me well at all. I hit the button and told him, that I
didn't
felt
feel
like I was
good.
having a seizure or whatever. And he kind of got aggressive and then cut the button off to where I couldn't hit the button no more.
Are you serious?
Yes.
And that's another thing, that once they get you behind the county jail, that's another battlefield that the rest of us don't get to look into because we can't see it. We're kind of shut out from that. But I've been hearing stories about what's happening inside of the county jail. A lot of stories about black people, especially, being treated inhumanely.
Yeah.
I remember I didn't receive
Not getting
medical
care. Yeah.
I didn't get medical care for 20 hours after they sprained my shoulder muscle.
Because when I went to jail this last time, I told him that my arm felt, I couldn't move it. Like the officer, she was like, "Oh, you want some Tylenol?" I'm like, "No, I want you to take pictures and I want you to look at it. That's what I want you to do." She was like, "Oh, we can't do that."
I had to advocate. We was on the button. Was on the button advocating. Somebody got thrown into our cell, unfortunately, who had been brutalized by the police, and she couldn't stop vomiting. And we was on the button like, you better get her out of here and get her checked out because she's looking like concussion. And so they will do that. They will injure you, and I believe they're injuring people and then throwing them in jail to further suffer while they just kind of mock your pain, don't do anything, and then at the last minute they'll say, "Oh yeah, we offered them medical care, it was available." Just lying.
Lately, families don't. When like my dad was just calling, they didn't even have me booked in, so it was like I wasn't even existing there.
Oh, that's creepy.
Well, the county doesn't show favor, when it comes to my last name as well, So it's just unfortunate, but I still stand on what I believe in. So I never waver from that. Like some people say, "Man, but your kids." Oh, well, my kids. Like if I don't, then my kids are gonna be, worse off. In the long run. It's just that county, the county jail, they're not concerned with health. When I file complaints out there, on them about it, and this last time I called, it was like, but I made sure she was out,
Good.
but I didn't understand, You know, like when you're releasing people, you're not even trying to think about the safety. You're releasing women at all type of the night.
12 o'clock.
You know,
1
like
o'clock in the morning.
what are you people doing? Like
Are you
people been,
serious?
yes,
10
people been
o'clock
out
at
of court
night.
since 2 o'clock. Like it's no reason somebody should be getting released 7 and 8 hours later. Like, and you the guys aren't busy. I've been there, and I've sat down and watched you guys just
Right
walk back
wrong.
and forth and do shit. You know, walk right past the cell. You know, and somebody in pain, you are, well, we'll send the nurse. You don't see the nurse till the next morning. She comes with an attitude. You know, so these people are all back with each other. You know, I just haven't. I filed for some video, but you know they contesting that. You know,
Okay.
saying it's the inside of the jail. Yeah, but you know it's part of my complaint process. You know,
Right.
you guys ain't doing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
You know, that's how people die in the county jail.
Exactly.
You know,
and we,
bad
what's it,
rounds,
Exactly.
bad
Waukesha's
rounds,
Law?
You know.
what's that?
Waukesha's Law.
Waukesha's Law. I didn't look that up.
Isn't that I think that's what it is.
Because she had passed away.
Oh yeah, grandma.
And
was
they
telling me about
never,
that.
they
let
didn't tell
be
her
sick in
family.
And that's
in the
another
jail.
thing we do know is happening, because that's how, was it Freddie Gray? Freddie Gray, who was one of the big names of who passed away because they had caused him injury by how they transported him
Yeah, I think so.
to the jail,
Yeah.
and he became paralyzed, I believe, and passed away
Yeah.
from those injuries. So
Yeah.
they're also, once they decide that, you know, they're going to criminalize us, it's kind of like they run you through the whole thing. You know, they physically assault you, then they don't treat you, and then they lock you up, so you got to sit there like that, right?
Yeah.
So to me, like, this is, you know, they're causing people to suffer unnecessarily simply because they want to throw the power around,
Yeah.
and
all it
that's
is,
not
it's a
right.
Power grab and but it's just the system. You know, these guys get caught up in their system, and it's not about the Constitution. It's just about what we say is goals. Do what I say. You
That
know,
part.
that type of that type of mentality,
I don't
that
think
type
they
of drive.
go by they thing either, where they serve and protect. Like I don't
Not
know.
for us.
There's,
Not for
there's
us.
there's a lot of bias that's in there. We witnessed it just a few weeks ago, and I called them out about it. And that was when we were just standing outside, and there were some folks that had like run into some folks that was with us, and we were
They was pushing their car into
Yeah.
moving them out of the way with the car, you know.
and so I brought to their attention, like, because they approached us, and when the first thing we said was, one of our members here was just hit by a car. Two of our members here were just hit by a car, and immediately they just started coming after us. They let the car leave.
The car left.
The car left, and we said, that car, like right there.
You're the
And
perpetrator.
he never turned around to look at the car.
They blamed the manner of the protest, you know, which you know
Yeah.
was
You
on.
still can't have people with cars though.
Yeah,
So
I-
actually, what happened
know,
was there was a
can't people
further
cars.
conversation where I was told that you can, and that you will not be responsible for doing it. That the person
Now, who told you that though?
It was whoever the supervisor was that day.
And
He
they-
was so
police
nice.
You
department.
know
He was
what?
so kind.
You know what? Was
I'm
it?
not even being facetious.
Was it?
He was I'm being facetious, but
was
he was
it-
kind.
From the police department.
Nah, I
But
can't
that's
remember
what he
his-
told me. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and it was Was it the one I told you was the one who had taken part in my arrest and had arrested me with my arm like this, which contributed to my
guys
shoulder
had
He,
injury?
it was the third
Yeah.
one that showed up that day.
With
and the
sun-
one
with
that
his
came
glasses,
back.
sunglasses?
Do women like that? Twist them on.
I
They
don't
twist me
know.
like
Well,
that.
let me tell you, you know, for sure they are using takedowns and arm holds that cause people to not be able to breathe
Yeah.
and to cause, for me, it was a sprain. I'd be
took pictures of
curious.
this last one. I'm not
I'd be
playing.
curious how
Yeah.
many other people have gotten muscle sprains and injuries
Oh,
from
yeah.
the force that's used in the arrest. That's normalized. One thing I wanted to bring up too, and you know, we're not going to keep you guys too much longer. I wanted to bring up that just this is, like I said, this is becoming too common and too shared of an experience that we're having with the officers here, and I think that they, you know, do need to know that we are not people that are going to be intimidated and people that are going to back down out of what we know is wrong. And so that to me needs to be a clear message, that you cannot just maliciously prosecute our community and pursue these charges when you know they're trumped up, when you know that there's a huge racial disparity in who's getting these charges, right? The OIR report, I believe, is what showed us that over 70% of the arrests that are made are of Black males here. And so, you know, again, going back to that Citizens Review Board and seeing that a lot of those complaints don't get sustained. They don't get legitimized by the review board to where there's an action and a consequence. Why do we have this type of disparity? Why aren't these complaints being legitimized if so many of us are having them?
We also did witness an instance where a complaint was legitimized and our city manager stepped in and did not move forward with that with that determination from the Citizens Review Board.
So these groups aren't able to be efficient when someone above them is saying, yeah, but no, I can't approve that. So what is the purpose? Where's the efficiency? Is this serving as a type of false hope for our community that there is justice that someone else is going to help foresee for us? So tell us about your hearing that's coming up and what kind of support you would like from the community.
I got a hearing May 13th at 6 o'clock down at the City Hall. And I just want everybody just to come and show up. Showing up is the most important thing to do. It's the most important thing we can do for each other is show up.
Period. And how are you feeling with, you know, I know you are being here supporting everything, but as a father and, you know, as someone from a generation that's been here longer than us, what do you feel is important to share with the community? And as a father, you know, seeing your child go through this, you know, what do you think about also how law enforcement is using this type of violence against Black women?
Man, it's rough, you know, because this last time, you know, I frankly told the sergeant, like, you know, I'm a father first, you know, to my kids. I said, it's just been fortunate for the police that I haven't been there, you know,
Yeah, I'm telling you.
because, you know, like, you know, I'm gonna defend mine, you know, but I also know how to de-escalate things, you know, to not make it go so high, you know. But I don't trust the police here. I don't trust, what's his name, David Boyson. He's a good old boy. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him.
Hey, you
know,
said...
and I can't throw him far, so I don't trust him at all. You know, I've been knowing him for years. You know, he's always been a good old boy. You know, and I just tell people, hey man, you got to file complaints though.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff goes in these officers' jackets.
They have a record.
Yeah, it makes a record of it, you know, and after a while, you know, the record's gonna catch up to them. You know, somebody's gonna get tired of it. You know, it's hard. You know, it's hard watching your child, you know, especially the hate that I know they have for me. You know, the police, that is, you know, so it's hard when I see, you know, the asshole police, you know, and then you start messing with my grandsons, you know.
And how old are they?
They're 16 and 14.
Okay.
You know, and this is why one guy down there, you know, I have zero respect for this Black officer, zero, and that's because he allowed them to take my grandson, and he knows my grandson from school. He knows my grandson is an athlete. He's a good kid in school. And with you guys, we're talking about the Radisson at Christmas light time. And also, I remember somebody had a party there, some teenager. Forget, some relative had a party there. You know, so I just don't trust the police.
You feel he should have advocated. He should have been like, nah.
But we were there. They took him to the police station just for us to come there and get him. So all it was intimidation. Like, we're gonna put this nigga, We're gonna put this little black kid in the back of the police car, and we're gonna show him what it feels like. Well, I don't want my grandsons going through that. You know, and that's why I didn't understand it that night. Like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, they're not gonna let you do theirs like that. You can believe that. They're not gonna let you do. If they know one of them kids, they're not gonna let you haul him off. I know his parent. I'm gonna call their parent. That's what they're gonna tell you. But we don't do that for one another. We just watch them just line us up, and we know they're good kids. You know, so
I am curious
I
who
don't
this
trust him.
Ashley person is in the community, and what that relation, if there is some type of relationship that warranted that immediate trust as soon as they
Yeah.
stepped out the car.
This
even
relationship.
He was too
even
calm.
Yeah.
Like,
ignoring
you know,
everything that dispatch had
Right.
shared
Yeah.
with them.
with the aggression, she was determined that she
I
was
didn't
going to
understand.
kill
It.
somebody.
It has
Yeah.
to be some type of connection because his calmness was just
Hey,
like.
calm down,
Out of
calm
character.
down.
It was not an appropriate response.
But when
No,
I
right.
came out, he was like,
Not-
"Hey, calm down. You
Right.
gotta go to jail.
Yeah.
Go to jail
I'm
for
sorry.
what?"
It's not funny. It's
Yeah,
just
but when you,
it's just it
outrageous.
don't make
Yeah.
sense.
That's all they
Yeah,
tell
that's
me.
all you
Go
can
to
do is
So-
laugh.
So how were
'Cause it's
you?
just crazy.
I know you had another incident after that just happened.
Friday, yes.
So you this case
Oh,
was
we should
dismissed.
add that. Yeah, I was about
This-
to say we need to add that.
This
one was-
felony for assault and with
Assault and
assault and
battery.
battery
Yes.
of an officer was dismissed because there wasn't enough evidence,
Yes.
right? That's what yes, there
Right.
was not evidence that you had assaulted and battered this
Right.
officer. And so we probably thought, okay, cool, we could move past that, I could file my complaint. But now what has happened?
I ran into another incident. I was leaving Park Street Market, and I live on Ransom, literally right down the street from this store. So I'm in the car with my kids, and we just left my son's track game. And I get to the stop sign, I look in the river, I'm like, oh, officer, like, I see the police. I think none of it. I proceed to
They didn't have lights on at that point.
no lights.
Okay.
I proceed to pull and back into my driveway like I normally do. When as I'm backing in, he's pulling in with me and turning on his lights. But he gets out, and as soon as I see what it is, I already know what's gonna happen because every time he sees me, I could be in a car with somebody, he's gonna pull the car over just to say
Yeah, he does.
something to me.
Who is it?
His name is Officer Zapata, I believe.
Okay.
He gets out, he goes to the passenger side. And he's like, hey, I just wanted to let you know what caught my attention. You were speeding. Now, the stop sign is like this close to each other. What am
So
I
you
doing?
was racing from one side to the next?
Don't understand, but I'm like, speeding? He was like, yeah, and you know, you don't have no insurance. You roll that back window down? I'm like, no. So that pissed him off. He came to the driver's side, opened my door, and said, get out. I said, for what? He proceeded to grab me. I pushed his arm down and said, get out for what? I said, excuse me, sir, what am I getting out for? The other officer ran up, sir, you're going to go to jail. Listen to my permit. You're going to go to jail. I said, go to jail for what? What am I getting out of the car for? I said, first of all, let's stop here. You keep calling me sir. I'm not a sir. I'm not a sir at all. Secondly, I'm just asking a question. Why am I getting out of the car? You didn't ask for my license. You just told me you pulled me over for speeding. That's a traffic stop. Get my license and do what you need to do and give me my ticket so I can go in my house. He proceeded to tell me I needed to get out of the car because I kept asking him why. He told me then I was being arrested. And I said, arrested for what?
Here we go again.
Resisting arrest is what I was originally arrested for. Obstructing or resisting arrest. He folded me up, bent me up.
But at that point in
two
time,
officers.
you were not told that you were being arrested.
I wasn't even told nothing.
So I'm not sure how you can be.
That's why I didn't get out the car. That moment, I felt like getting out the car. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Happen exactly.
I don't
You got
know
two
what you
officers
was gonna
there.
do.
It's a video. You got two officers sitting there aggressively.
And these are male
Male
officers
officers.
again.
And they let a woman come on the scene, and they proceeded to hem me up and told me I'm standing straight up. He like, quit resisting, quit resisting. We're gonna take you down to the ground. I'm like, take me down to the ground. I got my wallet in my hand. He tell me, let my wallet go. They snatched my wallet out my hand. And then when I got in the car, I'm like, well, what is the charges? He said, well, you're getting charged with a felony of resisting arrest.
Another felony.
I said, resisting arrest? I never resisted arrest because I never was under arrest.
Yeah.
When I later got to the jail and went to court, I got charged with assaulting police officer and driving on suspended license. Never knew my license was suspended at the time.
Okay.
And you didn't either because you didn't even know my name.
Yeah, he never
He
got
never
a
asked
name
me my
until,
name.
until the card.
You
got-
went
she
in my
got the card
wallet
all
and
that.
got my information out my wallet.
So it was not even legitimate. To me, it wasn't even a legitimate traffic stop. Because if you pull in, if you
Profiling.
pull and then you back in, and then you pull in like that, what were you waiting on when I was in the street to pull? You wouldn't want to pull me over there. You gonna wait till I get
Profiling
in
and
the private
harassment.
property? Yeah.
And
So-
did not give you information about why they were.
He said speeding,
Attempting
but
to-
he told his sergeant it was because suspicion of me backing into the driveway.
Listen, your driveway.
Yeah, he
My
said
driveway.
he thought she was evading him, and that's what people, criminals do. I said, man, listen.
She's
I
at
said,
home.
I told
Yeah.
her, he said, well, we understand it now.
But when
Mr.
he came
Gum." I
to the
said,
back
"Yeah,
of the
but you
police
should
car
figure
to
that
talk
out
to me,
then."
no.
He
All they had
said,
to do was pull off and wait to see
he
what
said
they
we
was
had
gonna
an
do.
incident before. I'm like, no, we haven't never had an incident. You just always tend to want to pull me over every time you see me.
Mm.
Yeah,
Profiling and
yeah, he
harassment.
definitely
Okay.
does.
Yeah,
We
he's
see
one
you,
of those
Zapata.
officers, for real.
Thank you. I want to say, first of all, thank you, because going through this information over and over, I know it could be very difficult and tiring and exhausting, and then you still have the hearing next week. We really wanted to just give you the opportunity to say what you needed to say and lift up your request for support, but also continue to put the community on notice, because that's a concern. That's a red flag, of this is what continues to happen.
It was
And we
a
got
disruption of your life.
Period.
Because there were things that you were doing, things that you were preparing for,
Right.
events for your family
Miss
members.
work and everything.
Right? Folks had to miss work. I know you had mentioned when we talked before that you had to not take certain jobs
Yeah.
because you had to stay here
yeah,
while she was
make sure it's
Support.
good.
right. And this was for court for a court case that wound up being dismissed
Yes.
because what they said happened had never happened.
Right.
But see,
And
my
so you
whole thing
lost
is-
money. You
Yeah.
you lost time and money.
Mm-hmm.
But they have video from the beginning. The prosecutor, they just refuse to look at video. What they expect black people to do is to come down there, because I've been through it with them all the time. The lawyer doesn't even have to go in the courtroom. The first thing your lawyer is going to come to you with, the prosecutor's offering this. The lawyer doesn't even ask you
No, my dad.
what
don't
happened.
play that.
Because I just went through a trespassing case. The lawyer never asked me one time, hey, well, what happened? Could you explain what happened? No, I told her when I talked to her, please don't come with a plea agreement. Because I don't plead out. But she did. I listened to her talk to the prosecutor in the courtroom. So I don't trust none of them. And we appreciate y'all, and just need all the support we can, like mental
Exactly.
support, and being there as well,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's not right, and none of us should be feeling like we are facing this alone. So, I'm sorry for what you guys have gone through and what you've, been going through with this ongoing targeting and harassment. I hope you're able to, take care of yourself, take care of your spirit, because it really is psychological warfare out here, especially right now, where a lot of things that was making people feel halfway protected are being, rescinded. And so
Virtually do not exist.
yeah, so going back to where it was. And so I think it's very important for us to, again, not be intimidated and fearful.
It's really be the time when black people just need to stick together the most.
That part. Anything that we haven't said that you want to end with or that you want to
Just
say?
appreciate you guys.
Definitely appreciate you
Thank you
helping
so
me
much.
get the story out.
Yeah, for sure. You guys deserve that.
And I want to say thank you for sharing your story. Also because other folks who get to listen to this or watch this, who didn't know how to go about that process, they have some idea, right? And so I know folks can reach out to us. They can ask questions, but there are things that we can do.
Right.
There's a limit, right, to how much we maybe get listened to, but like we said, if we don't do it, then that record almost doesn't exist. And so, like I said earlier, sometimes we have to create our own record,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And
All
tell-
the time.
yep, and let each other know, put each other on notice. You
That's
know,
why he record all calls from everybody, like
Yeah.
schools, you know.
and you know, and you have to, you had to, because
They're the
of
biggest liars in the world.
hey,
And they all stick together.
just saying it like it is, you know. So,
Yeah.
we'll all be as safe as we can, and hopefully, you know, everybody goes out in peace and power. And we'll see you next week for this hearing.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah,
so much.
absolutely.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, it's time to eat. Yeah, I gotta go to the grocery store. No, partially closed with Tom and Coach show. Okay, so
I want to see
thank
if
you, ladies, so
yeah, I'm
much.
gonna step out here with y'all real quick.